Good morning, and thank you once again for joining me this Thursday on The Conversation with Kelly Diamond. You can catch me every Thursday at 6:30 a.m. Pacific Time, 9:30 Eastern, and you can also catch my written word every Monday at globalwealthprotection.com. Okay, so this time, instead of the usual crazed epithets and exchanges I usually have on the interwebs that gives me the fodder for every Thursday, I came across a post on a page called We Are Capitalists. And about 75% of the time, I agree with them, which is no indication of how capitalistic I am, because I would say that if they were going to be measuring anybody of how capitalistic they are, it would sooner measure them against me versus me against them. Just calling yourself a capitalist alone, as they have shown, does not necessarily mean that you are the metric and the litmus test for all things capitalism. I am a huge advocate of the private sector. And within that, however people voluntarily choose to operate, exchange, engage each other, associate, or not, is fair game. Okay? As long as it's consensual, as long as it's voluntary, I'm for it. I'm for it in the sense that I endorse it and that it's certainly acceptable to me. I might not like the business they're in, or I might not care about what they're trading, but that's merely a variable. I like that it's consensual. I like that it's peaceful. I like that it's voluntary. That being said, there was a Mythbusters episode that highlighted how people were boarding planes. Everything from the typical and traditional back to front, all the way to Southwest's method of a free-for-all. Mythbusters themselves did not make any or read into this at all and make any conclusions about it other than, was the method efficient? They tested its efficiency and they tested customer satisfaction overall. Okay. Unfortunately, I didn't watch the entire episode. I only watched like an excerpt of it, so I'm not 100% sure what all went into customer satisfaction. But I will say this. Customer satisfaction cannot be translated into something political or ideological. Customer satisfaction is a marketing thing. Okay? And it needs to stay in its proper world. And I say this not because of convenience, not because my argument would be made better, but because customer satisfaction has to do with the inherent ability of people having the option to either go elsewhere or not patron the place at all. An option seldom seen in a political setting. Okay, if we're going to draw conclusions between one social experiment and what its implications could be towards something else, then that something else needs to share the circumstances and share the context of its original intent. Okay, We Are Capitalists decided to take a tremendous amount of sociological poetic license and glean from it some sociological implications. Fair enough. They decided to say, okay, people's preference for structure in boarding a plane has these quote unquote profound implications on people's political preferences and their preference for governance. That was a horrible and irrational conclusion. Wow, it was like, I mean, have you ever seen that meme where someone's teaching you to draw an owl? First, draw 2 circles. Step 2, draw the fucking owl, right? I mean, how did you get there? How did you get there? Simply having some form of intervention from the staff, simply having some sort of structure on how to conduct yourself on somebody else's property, okay? Because the plane does not belong to the people boarding it. They are simply renting the seat for the duration of getting from A to B. After that, their connections to that plane are done. Their relationship with that plane is over. Okay. Whereas the actual companies that own them, right? They care about the plane. The plane has to function. The plane has to get in the air. The plane has to fly from A to B, and it has to be efficient in doing so. It gets paid to be in the air, taking people places, right? The sooner they get off the ground, the sooner they land, the sooner they can recoup and get back up in the air and do it again. Okay? That's the business mindset. But business is willing to come off of that if they're compensated for it, right? This is why it's a marketing issue and not a political issue. First of all, customer satisfaction, let me back up. The continuum that We Are Capitalists is operating on is that if we go with the most structured, right, in the most traditional sense of how people get on the plane, that is supposed to be, I guess, authoritarian. The most efficient and the least intrusive, the free-for-all, is supposed to be representative of anarchy, because apparently anarchy has no structure and has no rules, okay? Which semantically is preposterous, okay? I mean, that's it's all predicated on this. And this was the assumption that was made, and this was a false assumption that was made, and he was called out on it. This is your study. This is your study that says that people were least satisfied with the free-for-all. Okay. It doesn't, and so he goes on to say that it doesn't matter how I interpret anarchy. Oh, but it does, because you don't get to interpret words. Words have meaning. You can interpret the context in which I use a word, like I am doing with you in anarchy right now. And what I'm gleaning is that you're not defining the word properly. The word is being butchered right now. It's not a free-for-all. It has the least, just because it had little or no intervention from anybody, doesn't mean that there would be no structure. In fact, there is structure because it was the most efficient. It can't be efficient without structure. It might not be the most pleasurable experience every time, but we weigh that out with other things. Once again, I'm going to tell you why this cannot be and why this cannot draw any sort of sociological implications or any sort of sociological conclusions about people's political preferences or preferences towards governance. I could like a very structured life, but I can choose that for myself without a government, right? I can say, yeah, I can have all my life all planned out minute for minute and everything. I can have that if I want to. I just can't tell other people to do that. I could teach my method to other people, and other people could adopt it voluntarily. But that would ultimately be what? Self-governance, right? We would be structuring ourselves. And if we don't take the initiative to do that, circumstances will certainly structure our lives just fine. We can be little rats in a maze and get shocked in certain directions when we make stupid-ass choices and learn not to make those choices again. In marketing, okay, there's a thing called branding. And within that, there are several myriad facets. Okay. Branding, succinctly put, is your identity. Okay? And the identity of a company in this case. What kind of culture do you have? What are you known for? What can people count on you for? Same as a person. You know, rather than calling it a personality or a character type, you call it a brand. That's all. But they're fairly interchangeable once you break it down and look at its definition. They're fairly interchangeable. The personality versus a brand, the brand identity, as it were. Okay? And when we look at customer satisfaction, there are several facets to it. There's nice to have, and there's need to have, and there's the deal breakers, right? Let me give you an example. I could get a t-shirt at Walmart for about $5. Is it going to be the greatest quality? No. Is it going to fit me and flatter my figure? Probably not. But it's a t-shirt. Depending on what I'm looking for, what I'm looking for in that t-shirt, that might very well fit the bill, right? I can also get a t-shirt at Nordstrom's. It's not going to be $5. It's going to be closer to $12, $15 for just a t-shirt, right? But whereas in the Walmart scenario, I would have self-checkout and I would do everything myself. I'd have to find it myself, dig around on the shelves that are totally disorganized and find my size, then go check myself out, right, at the register, process my own transaction, and then get out. Okay? I could do it all without ever talking to a single human being. It's as close to online shopping as you get in a brick and mortar establishment. Nordstrom's, they ask you, I help you. Then this person dedicates themselves to you finding that shirt. You go and try it on. Not something you can do at Walmart. I haven't seen a fitting room in Walmart, actually. There might be one, but I never saw it. Nordstrom lets you know, here's where you can try them on. You didn't find what you wanted? You call the attendant comes and they ask, what size do you want? What color do you want? How do you want it to, do you want it a long, short, little cap sleeves, longer, short sleeves, 3/4 sleeves? I'm going to get you everything in that size. I'm going to bring it. You're going to try each and every one on until you are fully satisfied with the shirt that you're buying. And so they go and they look. They put back the ones you don't want, and they take the one that you do want, and they bring it all to you and you try it on until you find the shirt that you want. Then you go and pay for it. They take your card, they're pleasant, they smile at you, they ask you how you're doing today, all that happy stuff. Nordstrom's is required to not only put it in the bag and pass it to you, but come around the counter and present it to you with both hands. That's some fucking service. That's some $7 service, bitches, because $5 shirt and $5 shirt combined, compared side by side, one costs $12 simply for the privilege of having somebody hold your hand through the process of buying this t-shirt. Now, I could go to Macy's, okay, which is nicer than Walmart, but not nearly as nice as Nordstrom's, and I might be able to get the $5 shirt or the $12 shirt for about $7, $8. A little bit more than Walmart, a little nicer. Still have a person at some point in this stage of the game, but it's not Nordstrom quality service. It's not like this person is not at my beck and call. This person is, well, we'll put it away for you, and we can point you in the general direction of the shirts you're looking for. You may or may not find an attendant, but you can check out anywhere you want at any register, and there will be a person who would be glad to handle your transaction. You will have a person at some point. Right? You'll notice that there are varying degrees of premiums that you pay for that kind of service. How much intervention you want and how much satisfaction and how much warm and fuzzy feels, along with the quality of the shirt, you pay for that. You pay for that. But here's the thing. If I'm looking for a t-shirt to double as a smock so that I can go paint some pottery, the $5 shirt at Walmart is just fine. I don't need anything more than that. In fact, I want it to almost be disposable, right? After I'm done with that, I'm going to let it cake on, wash it, and then use it as a rag or make bean bags out of it. I have no emotional attachment to this shirt, which is why it can be so cheap, and I don't care. So I'm satisfied with the Walmart t-shirt given my circumstances, given my demands, and given my certain values that I'm going in with. What I'm looking for in that shirt has been met by Walmart. For me to go to Nordstrom and buy a t-shirt for those purposes is just a waste of money and time. Why would I do that? That's a process. That's a brand experience. I don't need a brand experience. I'm running an errand, right? Same with the bank. I am perfectly fine going to an ATM and withdrawing a couple of bucks that I need to get the hell out. I don't even get out of my fucking car. Okay? I have a machine that prompts me to do certain things, asking me yes or no questions and allow. I don't even have to actually enter the amount that I want. It already has fast cash, which has certain popular denominations. I click one of those and I move on my merry way. Do you even want a receipt? No, never mind. Don't even bother with the receipt. Okay, later. Okay, not welcome to welcome to your bank. Thank you for your transaction. I don't even get that. No words to that effect. Nothing, and I'm okay with that. Ruthless efficiency. I just want my $20 and I want to get the fuck on with my day. Right? We're totally willing as people to take that under certain circumstances. It makes sense. We shop online. We shop online now. People shop online. Why? Because chances are what I want is more than likely in stock online, whereas it probably isn't in the store. And is it worth it to deal with all those crazy assholes? Not really. Not on a rainy day. Not when it's freaking cold and I have to wear 700 layers and I'm looking for a dress, so I have to try on the damn thing. I gotta take off my anti-rape kit of 10 layers of clothes to try on the damn thing and then put it back on. Nah, I'll order it. I'm not in that big of a rush. I'll order it online. It'll get sent and delivered to my fucking doorstep. Right? This is customer satisfaction. What do I prefer? How do I prefer to have my experience? And I'm willing to pay for it. Or not pay for it. Right? I shop online. I get discounts left and right. I go into the brick and mortar store. I gotta pay. Now, at one point, prior to this Fairness Act or some shit, Market Fairness Act or some stupid shit. It used to be that I could buy online and not have to pay sales tax. I got an automatic 7 to 8% discount just for not going to the store. Never mind all the other incentives that there are. All right. This is the range of customer experience. People want more structure. People want this. People want that. Okay, let's get to the planes then. Why the fuck do you think Southwest is doing just fine? Despite the fact that it has the least satisfactory rating for its process to board the plane. Because at the end of the day, gets the plane in the air and gets you there on time. Which is more than we can say for United Airlines, American Airlines, and Delta. Delta stands for doesn't ever leave the airport. That's how fucked up they are in terms of their efficiency. They can be super nice to you. It doesn't really matter because you're not going anywhere. Okay? Whereas Southwest is like, grab onto the tail, we're going. Time's up. Whoever's on the plane is on the plane. Whoever's not too fucking bad, you'll catch the next one in 15 minutes. They're a commuter plane. They're even in first class. You can buy your way up to the front if you want, so that you're closer to the door to get out. You can do that. You can buy preferential seating for $10, I think, or $30 depending. They make it up as they go, I think. But you can do that. But there's no first class. The people who want more interference and more, and more lording, pay for that. It's a premium. Anytime you involve more staff, anytime you involve more structure, it costs money. If it costs the company time, it costs you money. I don't care if there's staff involved. Okay? So, we are capitalists, got its ass kicked and handed to them in the woodshed over their terrible gaffe and misrepresentation of what anarchy is or isn't. Okay. So they backpedaled out of that, even though they had a whole original post and they thought they were really clever and they came up with these, with all these inferences and implications toward, political preference and governmental interference, because they thought, oh, well, with a little structure, that must mean that people like government and they need a little government in their life. And government's the only thing that can offer any sort of order or structure, right? It can't be privately administered. We are capitalists. Capitalism being the private means of production and distribution. Private is advocating for some government. Okay, here's the thing though. Even if I said I prefer people are constantly interfering in my life and giving me my satisfactory customer experience. I want to be satisfied with my customer experience. And apparently that has nothing to do with its economic efficiencies or the efficiencies that it offers in time. Okay? Assuming that my values don't involve efficiencies in time or money, right? That's what we have to assume, that my satisfaction is not contingent upon things operating efficiently and operating economically. Okay? It means I'm more about the experience of having somebody serve me. Right? We can go so far as to buy your own plane, but since the masses by and large can't afford that, we're going to go with whether or not you want to buy first class, whether you want whether you want everybody in economy to still be treated like, like first class and be involved, and the staff's involved and helps you find your seat, all this. Even if I wanted that, I can opt in or opt out without the threat of violence. Not something that can be said about government. Something that we are capitalists totally fucking ignores. Okay? They don't understand that having the staff or faculty of a business interfere at some level to facilitate a transaction is not tantamount to inviting the government. When the company interferes, what they're trying to do is please you, right? You don't go to first class to get your ass kicked. You go to first class to get actual silverware and glassware and complimentary glasses of wine, larger seats, a little more space between you and the next person, an attentive staff. That's what you pay for, is full-on interference. But you pay for that, and then in exchange, they fall over themselves to try and please you. When the government interferes, first of all, they're not looking for efficiencies, and second of all, they couldn't give two tin shits if you're satisfied. Hence, the DMV. Nay, hence, any government office that deals with the public. Try it. Try getting a person on the phone with the California Secretary of State. A person on the phone. Just to ask for the status of your paperwork. Just to get a status. Not only don't they have it on the internet, but you have to mail in a request, download a form off the website, mail it in. If you bring it in, there's a fee. If you mail it in, there isn't. No, this is amazing. Okay? There is a premium for interference. So when we talk about customer satisfaction, ask yourself this. Is it worth the premium? Was that ever asked? No, it was not. It was not asked. Because if I asked you, would you prefer to have a royal experience or not? Right? Would you prefer to have a Ritz-Carlton experience? JW Marriott experience, right? Something of that caliber? Or a Motel 6 experience? Both of them provide you a bed and a bathroom. And I believe complimentary food. Which one would you prefer? Well, of course I'd prefer the Marriott or the JW Marriott or the Ritz-Carlton. Of course I prefer that. Over Motel 6? Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Motel 6 is about $50 a night. JW Marriott is somewhere in the neighborhood of $350 a night. What are you willing to pay for? Oh, well, I can't afford $350 a night. That's too expensive. If I spent that much on the hotel, I wouldn't have any money for anything else on my trip. Oh, I see. So you're willing to pay less. I mean, I could get you, a Holiday Inn Express for about $100 a night. free continental breakfast in the morning, and Bath and Body Works products in the bathrooms. What do you think? Well, that's not bad. Okay, so you're willing to pay a little bit more not to have the Motel 6, but you're not shelling out for the JW, is what you're saying. Right. And you feel you would be satisfied with this? You feel you're getting your value of $100 a night at the Holiday Inn Express? Yeah, they have some, they have nice bedding, and the rooms are fairly good size, and yeah, that would be good. That'd be a good place to stay. It wouldn't be the JW, and I know that, but I'm okay with this. I'm cool with this. I'm satisfied with it because my expectations are met. My expectations are met. That's customer satisfaction. Meeting the expectation. When people go to Southwest, people aren't expecting to be treated a certain way. So they're not necessarily disappointed either. You're paying or not paying for the inefficiencies and efficiencies, okay? If you want more structure, it takes more time. If it takes more time, it costs more money. Are you willing to pay for that satisfaction? Whatever satisfaction you get from not having the free-for-all method done, are you willing to pay for that? Because when it comes to government, the payment is twofold. You pay in taxes far more than what it's worth. You don't necessarily get the satisfaction. That's not a guarantee because it's a monopoly, right, when the government's involved. And it comes with the threat of a gun. So imagine your stewardess sitting there holding you at gunpoint saying, you better fucking sit your ass down. And if you don't do it in the order that I say, I can shoot. This is what the state is. The state is backed by violence. If it's not, there's no point in having it. It has no fucking teeth. Okay? Whereas a private business can say, this is how we roll. If you don't like it, don't buy our shit. That's what private businesses do. They're willing to say to people who are recalcitrant and otherwise assholes and not worth it, they're willing to say, fuck off. You can disassociate and go find my competitor then. I'm so fucking terrible. Although they bend over backwards to please you, the government does not. Despite the premiums that you pay. You pay Nordstrom prices for Walmart service when it comes to the state. So this idea that we are capitalists is going to take how planes are boarded, this little micro study, how planes are boarded, and then use that to somehow speak to people's preferences for government is such a leap. So then they backed off, right? They backed off of all of this. They said, oh, it doesn't matter how we define anarchy. Even though I'm just gonna, even though this is total fucking conjecture at this point. That doesn't matter. What matters is that customer satisfaction diverges from efficiency. Assuming that it's not linked to efficiency, yes. At which point people are willing to pay more for the two to meet again. If people are, that's the thing, is that they do in fact compromise in some way. Either they're willing to compromise on the great experience to have the efficiencies, economically and time-wise, or they're willing to compromise on the efficiencies to have a nicer experience. That's a marketing study. That's a branding study, not a political one. Politics only comes in one form, oppressive. You don't have choices. When people are boarding a plane and they want some form of order, that has nothing to do with their political preferences. People by and large prefer a little bit of structure. Well, no shit. People like a little bit of structure. But people operate more efficiently without it. People weren't killed in the process of seating themselves either, by the way. Okay? So it's not that it's dangerous, per se. It's quite efficient. It gets the job done. And depending on what your priorities are, that is tantamount to being satisfied. But if customer satisfaction is meant to be mutually exclusive of efficiency, then sure they'll diverge. But what difference does that make? At the end of the day, the question is, are you willing to pay for them to sync up to your liking? How much are you willing to pay? That's something that wasn't addressed, which if you're going to call yourself a capitalist, then economically you need to ask if people are actually willing to pay for that. Just having the experience alone is not enough. Knowing what the price tag is on certain levels of satisfaction is integral to understanding whether or not people are really willing to have a government. Are you willing to, okay, I mean, if I told you I could save you X amount per year if you're willing to do this yourself, right? And I started shaving your tax bill, and next thing you know, you got $5,000 back in your pocket. Would you ask for it back? Would it have been worth it? Do you feel like you're so overwhelmed with your own personal responsibilities now because the government isn't doing it for you? Or would you prefer to keep the $5,000 in your pocket? Now, there's a question that should be asked if you're going to ask about whether or not people want the government, and if you're going to try and draw any parallels between a marketing study, a branding study, business practice study, and whether or not people prefer to have a state. People don't prefer government. People prefer to keep their own fucking money. People prefer not to be pointed at with a gun. Once you tell them what the stakes are and at what cost they would have these comforts, assuming they get any, their loyalties shift away from a government. It wasn't posed to be. It wasn't posed as a question about government. So it wasn't represented as government. And it was never meant to be indicative of how people feel towards government. A customer service survey, study, or experiment has nothing to do with the state. Because the state has nothing to do with fucking customer service. It has to do with force. As long as you acknowledge that the two diverge. Acknowledge what? This is the profound implications you were talking about, that sometimes efficiency diverges from satisfactory customer service? That's the profound implication? There's nothing profound about that. You're just late to the fucking party then. Yeah, this was a total fail on the part of We Are Capitalists. I highly encourage you to go and troll some of their shit. I'm at a 75% agreement rate right now with them. And shrinking. What got me hooked on their page was an A+. What has me now is at about a C+. They're hit or miss on that. They're running at about average. Anyway, there you go. Catch you next week. Be well. Bye.